Trust me, this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
And provocative and challenging and anyway, let's get into it.
They say we all have some level of healthy assertiveness and a desire to put our needs first.
In other words, all of us have small narcissism.
Narcissism inside us. This kind of self-advocacy helps us preserve our confidence and celebrate our accomplishments. But with narcissism, it's a different story. For many, living with someone who has narcissistic behaviors can be a distressing experience. Okay. We have with us in the studio a clinical psychologist, Miracle Ihoma.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay. Let's start from the basic. What is the meaning of narcissism?
Okay.
Big word, big grammar.
Yeah.
Beke, as they say in Igbo. Beke.
Well, narcissism is it's a set of behavior. It could be a disorder. It's a personality disorder as well. It could be a disorder, but then until diagnosed, you can't say somebody has narcissistic personality disorder. So people can display certain traits of narcissism without necessarily having
the disorder. Okay.
Yes.
So it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing.
Well, narcissism is not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
But we have just said that everybody has a little bit of it.
Yeah, but for instance, the way we actually diagnose in clinical practice is we use what we call diagnostic statistical manual, where a set of criteria must be met before you can sufficiently say this person has this particular disorder. So the same for every disorder, including narcissism. So for narcissism, there are about 9 traits listed in the DSM, right? And a person who must be diagnosed as narcissistic or having narcissistic personality disorder must meet at least 5 of those criteria before you can sufficiently say they have a narcissistic personality disorder.
Miracle.
Yes,
if I begin to have self-esteem issues,
yes,
I think I am below everybody and I hide my head all the time. Is that what you prefer? I want to be able to hold my head high, but it doesn't make me narcissist, does it?
Yes, it doesn't. It doesn't make you.
So what are these criteria? You said there are 9 of them.
Yes.
And so once anyone begins to demonstrate 5
of the 9,
they're diagnosed.
The red flag is there.
Narcissistic person as having narcissistic personality disorder.
What are some of these?
Okay, some of these traits include people who have this disorder are envious of other people, and then also expect that other people will also be envious of them. That's one of the criteria.
So if I'm envious of you and she's not,
the person expects that or feels that other people are envious of them. The same way they are also envious of other people, what other people have. Because the general notion or the general theme of narcissism is over-bloated sense of self. That's the general theme of narcissism. A person who feels like they are more important than every other person.
And all attention should be on them.
Exactly, and all attention should be on them.
And when all attention is not on them, there's a problem.
There's a problem. So, from that particular theme, they now have different expressions or different branches that leads to the same tree. For example, is the envious behavior just talking about now. So they are envious of other people because, and that is coming from the perspective that they must be the ones to have everything. Everybody must look up to them. Right?
And everybody must
envy them. Yes. So that's why they also envy other people who they feel are better than them. Right, that's one. Another trait is haughty behavior. So they are people who are naturally egoistic, proud, So they have a sense of superiority. But they feel like other people are better than every other person, right? So there are people who also lack empathy.
Oh wow!
They lack empathy. So
they're not a saint.
Yeah, it doesn't because it's about them. It's about them. So a narcissistic person, for instance, can talk about how healthy he is in front of a sick person.
Wow.
He can talk about how well he's flourishing in his relationship in front of his ex so that they know that, okay, without them, they are doing much better. You know, that's another trait of a narcissistic behavior, right? There are many others like that. Let me try to
give an example of a couple.
Of a couple.
Of a narcissistic person in a marriage or a relationship.
Okay, a narcissistic person in a relationship or in a marriage would feel like they are better than their partner. So they would do everything possible to make sure that their partner sees them as superior in that relationship.
So if the partner that is not narcissistic is earning a better pay, it's a problem.
That's a problem, because they want to be better than them. And they have an overbloated sense of self, so that when you don't even have that perception of them, they're surprised, they're perplexed. Like, you don't see me this way. Like
there's something wrong with you.
There's something wrong with you. Like, are you seriously thinking that I am at that level? You know, so they are surprised and perplexed that you don't also see them the way they see themselves.
I've also heard the word gaslighting thrown around that personality as well.
Exactly.
What is that?
They make you feel small. They make you feel inferior. They make you feel like you are not good enough. That's why it's very difficult to please a narcissistic person. Right? If whether in a relationship, in a parenting relationship, if they are parents, for instance, they put a lot of pressure on their children. Right? If they are a partner as well, they put a lot of pressure on their partner to live at par, and everything is about them. So even when they do things for their partners, it's about them. It's about how they want other people to see them. That's why they will do things in public, you know, so that other people can like them, other people can see them, other people can defer to them. It's about them.
It's not because they like the person.
It's about them. It's about them. So even for their child, they'll put a lot of pressure on their child to do well in school, for instance, not because they really love, not necessarily because they love the child, but because a child doing well gives them a sense of importance. Like, I'm the father of this child who is doing well, or I'm the mother of this child who is doing well.
That child who won the award in school today, it's my child.
It's my child. Exactly.
So how about it's also said in some quarters that they always want to be in charge.
Yes.
Even when they're the executive assistants in the office.
Yes.
They always want to be like, it's either them or no one.
Either them or no one.
I'm in charge.
They want to be in charge of everything.
Control.
They want to control other people's behavior. Right?
They want to control the CEO.
They want to dominate. They want to, let all the attention be on them. It's about them, and no other person. So that's how they feel, good about themselves. A lot of them have esteem issues because that's a mask they wear. Like, oh, they are superior, but inwardly, there's an insufficiency
they know
that
they
have,
are not.
And so they wear that mask, to feel like they're in control, while actually they're not.
How do people get NPD? How do they become narcissistic?
Well, there are no clear causes.
Okay.
There are no clear causes, but many times it could be linked to genetic reasons. Generally, every mental health disorder is linked to three things majorly, three umbrellas. We call them the biopsychosocial model. Biological, we could be genetic, hereditary, and things like that.
So people inherit that one?
Yes, of course. When the same way people inherit physical illness, people also inherit mental illness.
Wow.
Yeah, so if there's a particular mental illness in the family, there's about a 30 to 50% chance that a member of that family would also have that illness in their lifetime. So yes, people can inherit mental illness as well. There could be psychological factors too that contribute to that. There could be sociological factors that contribute to that. So when it comes to narcissism, is mostly genetics or environmental. For instance, parenting can induce it. Statistics or research has shown that neglecting a child, neglectful behavior could actually cause a child to develop narcissism.
Oh.
Yeah, and even overprotectiveness. So when you overprotect a child, they can begin to develop that
resistance.
Yes, that sense of superiority, that sense of importance. And when you also neglect the child, there's tendency for them to also develop that attribute. So yes.
Sometimes people don't actually regard narcissism as a disorder. They just feel that the person is unnecessarily arrogant. And they don't regard it as an ailment that requires medical attention. So if one finds that one is living with that kind of person, what does one do?
Okay, if you're living with that kind of person, really, it's a lot. That kind of person is
It's a lot to live with.
It's a handful. But of course, you have to protect yourself. That's what I would say first of all.
Maybe to answer her question, maybe we should ask first, how do you know that you have been living with a narcissistic person?
Okay, you just have to watch out for the traits. Like I said, when people have a number of these traits, and then because a lot of them too don't like criticism. So when you criticize them or tell them that, okay, this thing you're doing, don't you think? They get very defensive,
So they deflect. They don't take responsibility.
They don't take responsibility for their actions. So all of these could be traces. So when people have a set of this behavior, and then you're talking to them about it, and they seem not to even want to agree to the fact that, yes, they're having these issues, then it might be a clear indication that this person might be dealing with,
So that kind of person ain't going to end up in a doctor's clinic anytime soon.
Will they?
Of course not, because they feel like, in fact, one of their traits is that they want to be associated with the higher mighty. They want to be associated with people who are perceived best, in this society. So they feel like they can't be understood by
ordinary people.
They can only be understood by people who are special as they are.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how they think. So you will see them, deflect a lot, like you said.
Okay.
You will see them say things like, "You don't understand. You're not my level." And things like that, because they feel like, "Who are you to understand me? I'm better than you."
Okay. Yeah. So someone is right now scratching his head because a number of people who have lived or live with narcissistic people have had reason to question themselves.
Yes.
Why does that happen?
Yes, because it's typical. If you live with somebody who keep questioning you, questioning your ability, questioning your attitude, questioning your behavior, questioning your
against
talents.
all prevailing facts.
Exactly. You are the point, because we believe things based on what we see and hear over time. The ears and the eyes are the gates to the mind, right? So if you hear something consistently, you might soon believe it. It's true, even when it's not true. So if you are told something consistently, at the point you start asking yourself, am I sure I'm not even this thing?
It tends to become your truth.
Exactly. It tends to become your reality.
Yeah.
Because subjective reality.
If I find myself living with that kind of person, I'm not going to tell him he's narcissistic. But I need one way or another to get him help. How do I achieve that? When the person who has the problem is not even accepting that he has a problem. He thinks his problem or his reality is that he's better than me and everybody else.
Exactly.
So how do I get him help?
Well, you can't get him help. He has to get help by himself, because he has to come to a point of acceptance, right? Which is...
How often does that happen?
Well, it does happen, because people sometimes, because that's the first point of actually working with people who have these traits or disorder. They have to accept that they have a problem. They have to be able to gain insights. Sometimes, that happens even in therapy. When you are speaking with them, it's at that point they now gain insight into what the problem actually is. That, okay, maybe I'm actually dealing with these things. But you can't help them until they get to that point where they can see that, okay, there's a problem. Especially if there are visible evidences around them that this problem is causing, this issue that they have is causing problems around them. Then they might now be able to come to terms. Okay, maybe because many times we'll have issues with relationships. with their partners, with, colleagues at work, with your neighbors and things like that.
How does one even get to marry a narcissist? I understand that there's this thing they call love bombing, that they also use it as well. Is that how they trap their
Well, people who are, because they seem confident. So people like that might naturally be likable. So when you see somebody who is confident of himself, who speaks highly of himself and things like that, you might not know that, this person is narcissistic.
has mental illness.
So,
Put that way.
he's dealing with a mental health condition, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a better
But
way
you
to put it.
called it mental illness the other time. Why are you denying me in public?
It's just that there are certain terms that are a bit more user-friendly.
Oh, user-friendly.
User-friendly.
I see.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yes.
There's too many things to ask you, Mr. Homer. Too many things to ask you on this one, because, okay, maybe I should ask this: how bad a problem is it? How serious is it in our society? We know, I just told you the other time that in other parts of the world, it's easier to say you want to go see a shrink. But in our part of the world, it's a
Shrink
kind of problem.
in a
So,
Exactly.
how often does that happen?
Yeah, I tell people that mental health awareness is evolving in this part of the world. Right, we're not there yet, but we are better than we used to be. People are a lot more aware about what is going on, about mental illness and mental health and things like that, and they are coming to terms. Right, it is quite difficult because now narcissistic personality disorder is grouped under, because when it comes to mental health and mental health conditions, they're actually grouped, on
Categories.
different categories and clusters. Personality disorders is a group on its own. That's where narcissistic personality disorder falls. And one thing about personality disorders is that it is the most evasive. It is the most...
you don't know, it feels like you.
Yes.
But you don't know it's
because the
not
personality.
you.
Personality is an enduring characteristic
Yeah.
of an individual. So you really cannot... The person is fully functional. So it's not like the person has, a distinct mental health problem,
So
where
to ask you,
Can go to work, can do his
interact
work
with other
effectively.
people and things like that.
Yes.
and causes problems without knowing it.
Exactly.
To answer Alero's, perhaps ask Alero's question, where if these people would not ordinarily say, I'm going to go see a doctor because I'm having a personality disorder, how does their partner help?
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that are suffering under this weight of this narcissistic individual.
Yeah.
So if they themselves are already losing their minds living with this person, they need help before they can give help.
True.
How do you help a marriage now that is under this influence, so to speak? What do they do?
Yep. So first of all, the person who is the partner of...
or who is the victim?
who is the...
I know, maybe that's not a user-friendly term. Yeah, I know, but...
who is the partner of this person who is dealing with, needs to protect himself, like I said earlier, or herself, right? And an interesting fact about narcissism is that it's found more in men than women, right?
That's not nice. You're giving her ammunition.
But it's true. It's found more in men than women. Of everybody, who has narcissism, 50 to 75% are men.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's actually, so the larger portion is women. So for that kind of person, if you're living with that kind of person, you need to shield yourself first. You need to protect your own mental health, because that's how you can, because with living with that kind of person can make you, quote unquote, lose your mind in that sense. So you need to protect yourself. You need to make sure that you are mentally stable yourself, because you can't give what you don't have.
How does this individual do that?
One of the ways you do that is to actually, there's what we call changing the meaning of what people do to you, right? So that when somebody says something to you, you can alter what it means to you, because we are meaning-making machines. And while you don't have control over what other people do or say to you, you can actually control how you think about what they are saying,
how you process
or what
it.
they are doing it. And that is the middle point.
I beg. Sorry, no vex. I want to go Nigerian. So this individual is choleric. This narcissistic person is choleric. And I'm very sure I don't need to tell you the characteristics of a choleric. Naturally forceful.
Yeah.
And now narcissistic. How do you change the meaning in your head if you are phlegmatic?
You can. You can. You can. And I've helped clients do that.
Okay.
And you have a series of options, really. There are a series of options. You can leave that environment. That's an option.
Okay.
You know, but as a
But
therapist,
I live with him in the same space.
Yeah,
then you leave that
I leave the bedroom, I go to the living room.
No, you
can
leave the house.
You can leave the space. That's an option. But as a therapist, all right, it's not my duty to tell you what to do. So I won't tell you leave. I won't tell you stay. I'll give you the options that exist to say, okay, these are the options, right? One of the options is you can leave that environment. Another option is you can be in that environment, but don't allow it to affect you, right? By changing what the meaning of what the person is doing to you.
Isn't that living in denial?
It's not living in denial. It's not living in denial. It's about...
This guy is calling me a liar, Mr. Ihoma.
Yes.
And I'm supposed to think he is... What's he saying?
Yes. So, for instance, if I do this to you, sir, what does it mean?
I just saw 5 fingers.
Just of 5 fingers. That's an interpretation. To somebody else, that's waka in local parlance. And waka is...
it's a kind of music in Yoruba land.
It means you're crazy. It means your daddy is...
This one or that one.
Your mother.
People have killed themselves over this.
Really?
Yes, people have fought over this. People have lost relationships over this. So what is different between you who just saw 5 fingers and the man who saw it as my father is crazy? Interpretation.
Yes. So you're free to interpret what he says.
So your
whichever way
interpretation
you
can
want.
either be empowering or disempowering.
So it's up to you.
It's up to you to determine whatever means to you. So if for instance somebody says that you are useless, I could see it in 2 ways. I can see it as I'm good for nothing. I'm stupid.
I should just go and commit suicide.
Useless. But I could see it as use and less. Okay. Somebody who calls me useless has not maximized my potential. So they are using less of what I can offer. That's another interpretation. So if I have this other interpretation, it's empowering. I won't be angry that you called me useless. But I can ask you, how more can I be useful to you? Or how better can I be useful to you?
Jesus.
That's an interpretation.
Someone will just run mad.
But then if I have the first interpretation, it becomes disempowering because I get infuriated. How will you call me useless? You are the one that is useless. And then something else, brews on that.
Let me ask you something. From your experience dealing with these people, has there been a time when you actually succeeded in getting them from this mental place where they are the king and the lord of the manor and everything?
To a human
to a normal level, you know.
Yeah, reasonably, because one thing with personality disorders is, like I said before, it's enduring. So it means that you can't really change the personality of a person. You can only help the person to adjust, work on their weaknesses, strengthen their strengths. That's the best you can do. But to totally change the personality of a person, you just mentioned choleric and a phlegmatic, for instance. You can't change the choleric from being a choleric for life. But you can help the choleric work on his anger issues. You can help the phlegmatic work on their laziness issue.
And procrastination.
Issue. And procrastination. But you cannot change them from being phlegmatic to choleric. Or choleric to phlegmatic. No. So the same thing with these personality disorders too. You can't actually totally alter that personality, but you can now say, okay, what are the maladaptive traits that this person has? And then we can now work on those maladaptive traits.
Some personalities change, because I know of some people who, when they were young, they were such flirts.
Yeah.
10 girlfriends at the same time, and as they get older, they decide, enough is enough.
Maybe
I want to be a different
personality
person.
or character.
Oh, character.
Oh.
Oh my God, psychologist.
I was going to say maybe they saw a shrink, but clearly they're two different things.
Okay. No. This could have gone on longer.
And there's something called pseudo-personality. Because sometimes our background, our environment and significant emotional experiences can actually affect our personality so that we begin to display what is called pseudo-personality, a fake personality of who we are not. So it's until we begin to work on ourselves that we then begin to display and exhibit our true selves. Yeah, so that somebody, for instance, who grew up in an abusive home can be suppressed and oppressed to the point where they become so introverted. But naturally, they might not be introverted. But because of that environment, they are now, people who don't talk, who are to themselves. When they are delivered from that, right, they now begin to reveal their true selves. So they now begin to talk. And then you're now wondering, this guy used to be quiet. How come he's talking?
Yes or no?
He was living a pseudo or had a pseudo personality. Yeah. Now he's revealing his
yes or no? Because we're completely out of time. Would you recommend that every organization should have
a shrink?
Yes.
Yeah, there's something we do. I do it personally. It's called EAP, Employee Assisted Programs for organizations.
So that
where mental health support is actually provided to members or staff of an organization, where they have access the same way you have access to physical health, in HMO. You also have access to mental health support.
Okay.
And things like that. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Miracle Uhoma, we've just started. You have to come again. Mr. Miracle Uhoma, a clinical psychologist. Eye-opener. You've opened our eyes to a lot of things this morning. And we hope that we can have you here again so that this discussion can continue. We've just opened the discussion now, and I'm sure our viewers will have plenty of questions to ask you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
So